Aloha, this is Matt Purvis. I'm the president for Pahoa Main Street 2017, and I am here with Jon Olsen, who is a longtime resident of Pahoa and planet Earth. And I asked Jon if he would come and talk about some of the things that I've learned from him, and just let some of the knowledge and wisdom spill out of what he's learned in his long time here in Puna, on planet Earth, and whatever else. And so we just got together and we were just starting to talk about, why is it that people live here in Puna? Why is it people are coming here to Puna and the Big Island? And Jon started telling me his story, and I said, let's talk about it on camera.
Okay. So I came to Hawaii on a boat that I built, and I sailed it with my wife from California, and we landed at Kaneohe Bay. Well, anyway, the first winter that we were here, we both had jobs, and everybody kept telling us you should go to the Big Island. So we came to the Big Island. We rented a camper from Harper's and drove around the island. Well, we weren't here very long before we decided that we were coming back to the Big Island. Now, we had a boat in Kaneohe Bay, and the plan was to continue to sail, but we knew we were going to come back here. That was a decision made. Now, that was just a sense between the two of us that there was something about this place.
Yeah.
Well, as part of that job that I had doing the maintenance on the Kaneohe Bay glass-bottom boat, having a marine background, that's where I was working. Well, we would work on the boats at night after they had made their daily cruises, and I would make it a point to take the first ride in the morning on whatever boat we had worked on, just to make sure everything was okay. Right? So I spent a lot of time leaning on the rail, talking with people. Hi, how are you? You know, been to the other islands, blah, blah, blah. And I kept getting the people who had been to the Big Island, this thing about they loved it, but they couldn't tell you why. Or they hated it, and it frightened them.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sense.
Sharp rocks.
Whatever it was. I mean, I had this one woman, she said that she got off the plane, turned around, and got back on the next plane out. It was just
Visceral sensation.
Was just overwhelming. I mean, that was a day where you could go down the ramp, literally walk up to the gate, give them your $37, and get on the plane and leave.
And when was this about?
Oh, this would have been 83 or 84, something like that. Came in here in 78, sailed in 78. So, and then of course, because of the people we came to know on Oahu, we came to know people on the Big Island, and we became regular visitors back here. And my connection to Pahoa starts with a guy named Bill Rogers, who had a secondhand store right across the street, where the old train station was, where the warehouse was. And somehow or another, we got into a conversation about refrigerators, and they couldn't get a secondhand refrigerator. And I was going to the military options on Oahu and buying marine parts and stuff. And I do refrigeration. I mean, so I said, well, they have acres out there because they come out of military housing, and they circulate them out every 10 years, whether they are running or not.
Good or not.
Yeah, they just pull them, and that's that. So you can buy them by the acre, right?
Put a bid on
By
an
the
acre of
Of
refrigeration.
refrigerators, yeah. And they would sell you smaller quantities, and it cost you $2 or $3 a piece. So I think the smallest lot they would sell you at that time was about 12. So it cost me about $15 or $18, and I bought 12 refrigerators. Brought them back to my shop and checked them out. I think I sold them 8 or 10. And we sold them before I ever got them off the dock. That was the days you could drive out on the dock without having, all the
Special passes and clearance,
all that stuff, So I called him up and says, send me more, and I sent him more, and pretty soon that was my business. And then I got to know more people here, and the issue of machinery, farm machinery, trucks, all those things were available at the military auction. I'm a gearhead, and it doesn't really matter. Diesel engine is a diesel engine. You put in a tractor or a boat, doesn't, there isn't a great deal of difference, at least back then there wasn't. So I started buying machinery and vehicles. And pretty soon here I am. I bought a lot and started planning for coming back here. Wife died, and the boating thing was over. And I moved to Plymouth.
So that was in the mid 80s too.
90.
90.
Yeah. So here I am.
So for you, it was what you like about Puna, not what you hate.
There is very little that I hate about Puna. I mean, I think I grew up in California. I grew up in adjacent to a beach city, Venice, in California, and I'm an ocean kid. Definitely surfing, diving, and I mean the number of people who are in this environment that I have had a problem with have been few and far between.
Yep.
And I certainly, given where I grew up, I mean, there's a lot less problematic here than Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's true.
The environment is. We have this national park, Volcanoes National Park. I mean, this is a wonder of
nothing like it in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I moved here. I've been here almost 12 years now, and and I was living in a tent in Hawaiian Acres and trying to homestead there, and that was a crazy experience, and definite shock, culture shock, but not as much for me because I grew up overseas in the Philippines. But what I remember was, on multiple occasions, we met people who, within a few weeks of knowing them, we think this person would have been my best friend where I came from, and this person would have been in the way that we were treating each other, and it would be people who were totally different. I remember one guy, Filipino hunter guy, been around here for the longest time. We share no culture in common. Well, I mean, I grew up in the Philippines, but we don't share a common culture. He's born and raised in Hawaii. Pig hunting is his main thing. He drives around with a gun in the back of his truck. We have nothing in common from the exterior point of view, and yet he would say, yeah, you can come with me. I'll take you with me if you want. That'd be fine. And he'd talk about his stories of raising his kids here. And that just wasn't the way that it was on the mainland when and I was in Huntington Beach when I moved here as well. And so we thought, wow, all these people are just willing to make us a part of their life. Fresh off the boat, I remember, or fresh off the plane, I suppose. You were actually fresh off the boat, but I remember Uncle Jerry Konanui, who lives nearby me now, and totally fresh off the plane, knowing nothing. He was the same way, 100% aloha, representing Hawaii. We didn't know where Pahoa was or where we were supposed to meet him, and he's giving us taro and blessing us with things to bring on our land, And so I've experienced what you described too, the aloha spirit that is very alive and well. There's challenges here like any place, but yeah.
I mean, you know, there are challenges any place that you choose to go, and I mean that's the good news and that's the bad news. Certainly, the longer you stay in a place, the more connected I think you become to it.
Yep.
So, you know, the people, yeah, it's.
So
it isn't something you can really explain.
And many thousands and thousands of people feel the same way now, and they're moving to Puna.
Yeah, and that's again the good news and the bad news, right?
Yep.
I have been involved in the planning process. Well, I'll tell you where I engaged. My first engagement with the County of Hawaii. I'm selling refrigerators, used refrigerators. Well, I'm driving around here, and there's one of my refrigerators dumped by the side of the road. I know it's mine. It's got a big label stenciled on the back. You know, government buys something and they label it, right? Now, that refrigerator could have come from no other source but me. Not good. There it is. So I gathered up and I get on the phone and I call Public Works. They were in charge of solid waste at that time. And I call them. I said, I got this refrigerator. Oh, transfer. You know, somebody else picks up the phone. I said, I got this refrigerator, dead refrigerator. Where do I take it? The guy says, take it to Puna, and hangs up. That was my first real engagement with the County of Hawaii.
And what do you do now at the county? I know you have a couple of hats that you wear over there.
Well, I'm on the Environmental Management Commission.
Lo and behold.
Second time. I will take some responsibility for there being a Environmental Management Commission. I was, if not a founding member, one of the early members of Recycle Hawaii, which started in HPP. Laurel Decker, Ocean, who else was there? B-Bell.
And that's actually a county program. That's not the
environmental management.
The Recycle Hawaii.
No, it's
that's your business, right?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit.
Oh, a nonprofit.
Yeah. The three of them really started it. They contacted me because I knew about machinery, and I had access to machines and compactors and shredders and things that were required. So I educated them. They educated me. So we needed to get the waste handling of the county away from Public Works. It's a contradictory. So we got that put on the ballot, and it was approved by. It surprised everybody how many people voted to do that. It was shocking. It was clear in the first round of balloting that we had done the deed.
So now, today, only recently, the county passed the styrofoam ban. That's an example of. So, were you involved in that at all, or was that because of that department?
All of the above.
Yeah, obviously it was council members voting on it. Obviously.
Yeah. But I mean, we've been pushing for this for a decade. I mean, it is. It's styrofoam, the polystyrene. It's an environmental nightmare that I mean, my age, the we is going to be pretty short. But the reality going forward, it's in the environment, it's feral. and it has an insidious way of getting into our food chain
Mm.
and the food chain of everything that surrounds us. And cleaning up the mess. I mean, we've got to stop its manufacture and start cleaning up the mess, neither of which have we succeeded in doing.
Mm. So that first experience with the, make sure this is working here. That first experience with telling you to drop it off at in the jungles of Puna.
I was raised better than that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what could I say? I was
Yeah.
raised better than that. You don't go dump something on somebody else's property.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if it's a public right of way, we all own it.
So do you feel, and I know that you do, I'm just bringing it out here, but in that attitude doesn't, towards Puna at certain times, doesn't only include go dump the trash in Puna, but other things as well. So what are some of the challenges we face, or if you want to talk about, the issues we have, some of the issues we face that are the most challenging, especially considering the growth that we're experiencing now.
Yeah, well, that was another interesting thing that kind of happened at this, everything starting when I moved down here, really. I mean, I had been involved in some of the sovereignty issues on Oahu with the Waiholi Waikani folks up there. And that was, that educated me on the whole sovereignty and land but
Didn't plan ahead. I don't know any better way to do it than to take the battery out. There we go. That's a win, though.
So, I mean, I knew nothing more. I mean, the whole point of coming to Hawaii initially was I needed to get to Waimea Bay.
For surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd done most of the big waves in California and Mexico, and that was on my hit list. So, been there, done that.
Yep.
So, in the process, again, this welcoming of the culture. We were living on the boat in Kaneohe Bay. That was legal back then. And we ran into people, and they were sharing, and they were open, and I had skill sets that they needed. They were starting to do the makihiki at Kualoa. Charlene Calvin Ho, wonderful people. And they had some issues with getting electricity to their sound system. And I knew how to do that. And one thing led to another. I ended up working, being an instructor for an ALC program, Alternative Learning Center, the first one in the state. Bob Nakata, who...
And this is still on Oahu, right?
He's still on Oahu, yeah. And he later became a state representative. And he's still on the trail. I saw him on TV talking about homelessness the other night, up at the state capitol. He's still out there in the trenches. So that brought me,
into community, not just service, but community involvement.
Community involvement at a level that certainly wasn't the common thing in California.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm here, and again, I have skill sets. I can carry on a conversation.
Be a liaison between the community, and that's where I have come to know Jon over the course of time is in Main Street Pahoa. And so seeing that, now I'm getting more of the story, but seeing that obviously participating as a volunteer and not only officially but through relationships obviously that has brought you up on lists of people to talk to when it comes to the mayor or this person or that person who needs to get something done. And being in Main Street Pahoa, of course, in this organization, we are focused on obviously Pahoa and Puna and what issues we're facing. And I know that a few of the things that come up that really need to be taken care of are our neighborhoods, the way that the land was set up in the first place,
Right.
and that was in the, if I'm not mistaken, in the 70s and 80s.
Well,
Right?
it started in the 60s.
Oh, in the 60s.
Yeah.
And then that includes as well the transportation and the highways and everything to get here.
Well, I mean, one follows the other.
Right. All the infrastructure together.
Yeah, I mean, most folks don't realize that they're in Puna. You are living in what is generally considered to be it is one of the largest land frauds carried out in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into the sovereignty thing, but as far as the United States is concerned, if you talk to someone who has credentials in planning, they understand that, of course you have Florida. Nobody's going to beat Florida for the numbers of acres or the number of parcels created, because there were literally hundreds of thousands of them.
And could you describe it, just like assume someone never heard of it, never knows what
Well,
what that means?
you take land that is otherwise unusable, like Florida. Most of it was underwater most of the year.
Swamp. Yeah.
But the state allowed people to come and lay plot maps over the top of the swamp, and then go to New York, Chicago, and sell those submerged parcels, leading the people to believe that they had something of value that they could go live on. And in the case of Florida, they created hundreds of thousands of them. In the case of Hawaii and Texas, they created tens of thousands of them. Hawaii, our parcels are smaller than Texas. In Texas, the parcels were very large. Here, they go down to as small as 1/5 of an acre. You take Ainaloa,
Down Bali, where I live.
Kahana, Seaview.
Well, when I lived in Seaview, I don't have the same amount of history as you, but I remember that even when I was there, which is not long ago, it's like phone service, no. Water, no. Power, yes, but it didn't used to be. Yeah, maybe. Not all the time. Shopping, no, not even close. Gas, no. Any possibility of that happening in the future, basically, no, in terms of the way it looks.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, so basically, they bulldozed roads and laid the plot map down and then said...
No, they didn't bulldoze.
Oh, they didn't even bulldoze those roads.
I mean, let's take, I talked to, very early on, I delivered a refrigerator to a woman in Ainaloa, and this is back in the early 80s. And she told me that she and her husband were the first people to build a house in Ainaloa. And when they came out here, because they had this beautiful brochure, looking for their lot, they found out that they couldn't get in because there was no road other than four-wheel drive. And the same thing turns out to be, later on I talked to people who told me the same thing about Hawaiian Paradise Park. So
literally laying grid lines down on either jungle or lava rock or whatever it is. No power, no water, no phone, no emergency service in terms of access, no roads. What am I missing? Obviously no internet because there wasn't any. But you own it. But you still have to comply with all the...
you're paying taxes on it.
You're paying taxes on it.
I mean, the other interesting thing is, of course, I ended up living across the street from this woman named Helene Hale. uh, she was the chief executive officer of the county of Hawaii. This is before they had a mayoral system.
Hmm.
The council, you got elected to the council, and the council elected a chair who became
Who would be basically the mayor, but
the
not.
mayor, the chief executive officer of the county of Hawaii.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption. So Helene Hale.
Helene Hale, yeah. Of course, Helene at this point is my age. You know, she's in her 70s. She'd gotten herself onto the council as Puna's representative, and she was making every effort to atone for the past.
Hmm.
Her situation, it was interesting. The land fraud part of this starts in 1959 with the winemakers. In a physical sense, I mean, the idea that you could take the land that the sugar company did not want, could not use, and in a place that the broader community that then lived on the island viewed as unlivable.
Mm-hmm.
And do this on paper subdivision. I mean, that is attributed to, and if you read Land and Power in Hawaii, George Ariyoshi, person who was soon to become governor, and some of the people who graduated in the same class as he did from the Jon Olsen School of Law. It's all in Land and Power, if you like.
Which is a book.
Yeah.
About specifically about the Big Island, or is it
Not,
about the
no,
whole? Yeah.
it's about the whole state, but
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, there's the way the land use and the way the land use is controlled here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that it's unique, but the land fraud part of it is.
Yeah.
Especially coming from as high up in the political establishment of the time.
Well, you know, something I see on a daily basis, because I live in Nonavali and I have a very peaceful street and I enjoy where I live and it's beautiful, but that's not true for the whole, for any of these neighborhoods. Not every street is nice depending on your neighbors, but the thing I notice is just the vast amount of unimproved lots. And so it seems like, me not being an expert, it seems like when you're releasing a neighborhood and opening up a neighborhood, the typical way is to open up in, what do they call that, in section, in incremental,
Yeah.
so that you fill in one section, you open up the next section, phases. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, see, the thing is that this was not done in even for the time, for the 60s. It wasn't the way things were being done.
Yeah.
In other words, I got out of high school. This is 1962, and I joined the Carpenters Union. They were building subdivisions at that time. The great building boom was on. They were hiring the dead. I mean, it looked like you would pick up a board and move it from one space to another. You had a job. 4,000 homes here, 10,000 homes there, 14,000 homes there, and there were 6 or 7 of these subdivisions going up at any one time. That lasted for almost a decade. Taught me a lot about carpentry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know how to build a house. I can read blueprints and set grade. You know, so. But of course, I went back to boat building because I took after my own. But anyway, another story. These were just bare lots, and the brochures that they handed out in Waikiki, San Francisco, Los Angeles, all over Tokyo, about this cheap land in Hawaii. $5 down, $50 down, $25 down, $5 a month on agreement of sale, which means you miss your $5 payment and they get the land back. Okay, so that again, as a business practice, may be legal, but certainly ethically questionable,
Mm-hmm.
right? The subdivision we're talking about is a great example of that. You've got 5,000 lots there.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it has 2 county roads in it.
Yep.
Right? Both of which are almost a mile long. And they are 10 feet in width with no shoulders. Right?
Yep.
And that's going to, you're going to have 20,000 people living there. The water that's in there goes to the top part of the subdivision.
Right, representing probably less than 5% of the people who would
the
fill
lots
that
that are available. Yeah. So, and all of this is supposed to be on cesspools, or at least that was the, what does that do to the groundwater? Well, we don't have to guess about that.
If it's all filled in, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they, and again, getting back to Aline, she moved in across the street from us, and she was up there in age, and we'd go across and help them out, she and her husband, and, we broke bread and sat around and talked about it, and I can't say that she fully understood at the time what was the outcome would be, but she had certainly seemed to come to see what the outcome would be.
So earlier you said that Helene Hale started doing whatever she could
as a council person.
As a council, and was she the chair or she was council person for Puna?
No, she was just a council at that point. And they treated her very poorly.
So when it comes to what she was trying to do, what like, just give an idea, like what are the things that we need to do, or what was she trying to do at that time?
Well, I mean, one of the most interesting things, of course, since she had been here since day one, she had connections beyond the county. 8 Road through Hawaiian Acres, the emergency bypass road. That is a creation of Pahoa Main Street and Helene Hale. Pahoa Main Street gets off the ground in 1991. We can't get police services, ambulance services, all that stuff is still not coming our way in a timely manner. She reached out to, she heard our complaint, and Main Street's complaint, and she reached out to her friend Patsy Mink, Congresswoman Patsy Mink, and she got an appropriation for the purchase of that lot, the connector lot, and the improvement to the connector lot, which kind of signaled to
the lot being the whole road.
What is now a road. Yeah.
So it was just a string of.
It was just a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that backed up to Iowa Boulevard from Hawaiian Acres. And monies for the improvement to 8 Road under the heading of emergency response. Well, the county couldn't very well say no. So she also got us a swimming pool. That happened on her watch. And she would speak in our interests, knowing full well that something that she started it turned into a monster. I mean, her justification for doing what she did was a pretty good one. I mean, considering 1960, there's a tidal wave that destroys the commercial infrastructure of the city of Hilo. It's gone. I mean, they're sitting in the dark. Generators went, everything went. And they brought in a ship, tied it up to a dock, and tied into its generating capacity to make the city light up again. It was pretty dramatic. And they don't have any money. And the state just says, well, have a nice day. And there's no FEMA. There's no federal agency going to rush in, like it's happening in Florida now.
Yeah.
With a few $1 billion to straighten up to right the boat, ain't going to happen. So all of those things kind of dovetail into this, because now every one of those lots the county's getting $5 a year for, which today doesn't sound like much. But I went and asked the question of somebody, an accountant who would know. $5 then, what is it comparable worth today? That's like $43.
Times tens of thousands.
40 to 50,000.
Yeah. Well, can you speak about the coming into the closer to the present? I know that there was some type of a complaint made at I believe the federal level. What is that about?
We start to talk about the planning thing. So in 1993, 4, somewhere in there, a number of things come together. There has always been on the books since the 70s a state law that says the county shall do a general plan and community development plans in state law. The county of Hawaii had never done a community development plan. Well, this woman, Bonnie Goodell, who has a background as a planner, she lived and worked in Honolulu, was hired by HPP to do a visioning for their community. And they did that. And she took that to the county and said, you've never done a district.
This is in 93, 92, that
93, 94, somewhere right in there. And they actually gave her the money to do the plan. They didn't like the plan when they saw it because it represented what was really out there.
Who lived there.
Yeah. And they didn't pass it. They promptly killed it. But she did all of the background, and we're still handing out sheets with all that background on it, which led us to being on. At this point, I am chair. So anyway, the Safety Committee, which is a precursor to community policing in the county, and we are invited to sit on the state's long-range surface transportation plan. Well, at the end of that process, there was so much corruption, so much misinformation. We filed a complaint with the federal government because it's federal dollars they were using. Well, it took over 2 years for them to investigate our complaint. Well, they did, and very thoroughly. And at the end of that process, they substantiated every allegation that we made in the complaint.
So that's the mid to late 90s then,
yeah.
There.
And
well,
actually, the complaint is accepted in 2000.
Oh, okay, it's accepted, so it was 98 or so that it was filed.
Filed, yeah.
And then the complaint, so just so I understand, the federal agency has to do with highways and those
well,
things?
Well, it actually has to do with everything. It was a federal complaint, but when they come to investigate, it's oil on water. They dive into the records, and if there's footprints going in other directions of violation of federal law,
okay,
they follow them.
So it began with the agency which was doling out money
for highways.
Yeah. But then as the investigation comes, they say, well, what about other areas as well?
The county takes a lot of federal dollars. And so if it is applicable to highways, the police department gets federal dollars. The fire department gets federal dollars. Parks and Rec gets federal dollars. Every county agency dives into federal dollars.
So if there was a short way of explaining what the problem is that we're trying to address, we being Puna and Main Street and especially that complaint, it's and correct my wording, but it's that the money that's coming down is meant to be used in the community based on who lives where and probably based on population, because this is a public thing, not based on whether you're rich or poor or what people think of your area. And so because that wasn't done, that's a problem that needs to be fixed. And I know that the solutions to fixing the housing issue we talked about is you can't undo private sales of land, but
You can't.
Okay, but so
But, I mean,
not to get off the topic of the complaint.
Yeah,
but
no, that is the complaint. I mean, you have all. I mean, we are still at less than half a build out. We have, as far as Punamalka, Punamakai, we are both served by a 2-lane highway. That's on the state side. You take the 50,000 lots that are there, and even the most conservative estimate, you take that 2.3 or 2.4 population per lot. I mean, you take the smallest
family on a lot. Yeah.
The family on a lot. Times 50,000, what do you get?
Mm-hmm.
And where's the infrastructure to support that? I mean,
Right.
where are the services that the county of Hawaii has obligated itself to deliver? How are they going to do that? I was in a meeting with the planning people yesterday, not on this topic, over geothermal, and we very quickly wound our way back to the density. I mean, again, not to get off topic, but they plopped geothermal down in between 3 large subdivisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they're all amazed that when the thing blows up, you've got thousands of unhappy people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have thousands more unhappy people when they come to find out what's happened to their land. And I'm just scratching my head going, I mean, I have no children.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm gone, I'm gone. But all these people who have put their money and time into this,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that they had something usable, and they're going to come to find out, as you already have, being one of those people who has a future here. Police, fire, all of the things, all of the services that you could logically expect came with the purchase of that land.
Mm-hmm. As well as a voice.
Well, I mean, you vote.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's the way we've chosen to do it. We have, in my opinion, elected some pretty sound council people. But to get back to the point is that the services are not there now. And the county really does not. We're in the middle of another general plan. I don't see anybody jumping up and down about how we are going to achieve the infrastructure needs that are going to compare to the population.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what the county perceives as its resources to do things. There are other tools out there, which I brought up in the meeting yesterday, which is we have probably 20,000 lots that are in the high level inundation zone area. FEMA has a program for buying back vacant land. Those properties, not taking somebody's home,
but agreeing to purchase it from them.
I mean, how many lots right now are on sale in non-vote?
Quite a few, and I can say from personal experience, I wrote letters to the ones nearby me, and the majority responded that they would sell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about that in the whole neighborhood, there's probably many people who've never even been here. They received it from someone who passed on. There's many people who had the dream and then they're
They
thinking,
bought
no,
it on the
I'm not
internet.
coming here
It's
after all.
Hawaii.
I'm not
It's
coming here.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
I bought it on the internet.
Right.
It's Hawaii. They could be engaging in that program. I met with all kinds of reasons why they couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
None of which, as far as I understand it, are reality. I mean, that could happen, and I saw Godzilla step on Honolulu
Mm-hmm.
in a movie, right? Came right up out of the ocean and stepped right on Honolulu. So, and that's the comparison I will make, that they need to address the problem. Going forward, the people here deserve to have that done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you make mistakes in the past. We all make mistakes. It's part of the human process, right? Learned a long time ago, you got to do the right thing.
Right. So if we can't go back in time, which we can't,
Not yet.
then how do we
Unwind
positively, unwind or do whatever is needed?
The first thing that you have to be able to do is belly up to the fact that you made a mistake.
Yeah, first of the 12 steps, right?
Yeah.
As a county.
I mean, and as a county, yeah, there was a mistake made in the past. There were no. I mean, when they started this, there were no high hazard zones.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't exist.
Lava zones.
Lava zones. I'll give them that. Okay. They didn't know the risk, but they know the risk now. It's clear from the book Land and Power in Hawaii that it was pretty much intentionally a fraud to begin with. Almost all the people, with the exception of George Ariyoshi, are dead and gone.
You can't collect or justice on that.
Yeah, I mean, dig them up, beat them. It doesn't really help you. No, I mean, we have to find a way to unwind this. Eventually, it will. A number of things will happen. It could bankrupt the county easily. The other part of it, you go ahead and let the build out happen. And when that happens, Puna by itself will elect 5 to 6 council districts.
5 to 6 out of what would be
9.
12 or so
9.
at that time.
9.
Right.
Out of 9 districts.
But I assume that we would probably have more districts at that point.
No.
No. Okay.
No, the judicial districts are set. But the number of representatives
I see. Okay.
are based upon population.
So that's really important for you people in Puna to realize, is that the future looks like political strength in Pahoa.
We take over, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that that's a good thing. I are met the enemy and he are us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, then we become what they are. I don't like that any better.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have all these people who are living and owning property in the high hazard zone.
Mm.
We need to unwind that while we still have a chance.
Before the build out.
Before the build out.
So many people move here because they want to get away from the speed of life, and they come to love the natural beauty and the aloha spirit, like you said. And so if things progress just in an unlimited way, as you said, you can't have a cesspool every 50 feet.
Well, we've done
for
away
miles
with
and
that.
miles.
I mean, now you have to put in.
Right, but
our laws now say you have to put in the septic system. Finally.
Right, but point being, there's no plans for this. There's no plans for the water, the sewage in these neighborhoods, and so thinking positively, as you know, we want to share in this video positively. How can you be involved if you live here, if you love this place? I want to share that being involved now in of course making sure you go out and vote for who's going to represent Puna in a good way. And I agree with you that the councilwomen that we have now represent are looking out for the needs as they see it for Puna, and not just climbing the political ladder and that kind of thing.
Well, Eileen, I will tell you, she is one of the earliest people to get on board for the appropriate measures for our solid waste.
Mm-hmm. For a whole town.
Well, for the entire
For the whole
island.
place, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we live on an island. If it happens to me, it happens to you wherever you live here.
Right.
Right. So, you don't ever want to. I mean, we're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the tail will go to wag the dog here if we don't get a handle on this in terms of the population growth. My experience yesterday was just total denial. That, if I just cover my eyes and it'll go away. It isn't going to go away.
Mm-hmm. Or it'll happen when I'm not doing this job anymore.
Well, but these people still have family here.
Right. Yeah.
They still live here. I mean, they just. I am still confounded by the number of people who just think that it isn't going to happen. I can deny it's happening. I can deny what I see. I mean, we have record numbers of building permits.
Time,
He's got to go back.
you can turn it on now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How do I turn
It's just
it on?
on. It's just the valve right here,
The valve right here.
right next to the tanks.
Oh, okay. Just from,
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
I mean, realistically, I have no skin in the game,
Right.
but I see a train wreck coming. For you and all the other young people who are here, they have to live up to what happened, recognize the reality of it and what the consequences are, and gather the tools to make the change in direction that has to be made.
Yeah. Well, we're going to probably have a loud beeping noise in our ear in a second here, so that might be a good close to the video. But I'd like to close, too, with some positivity, which is to say that my experience in a short time, I guess I've been part of Main Street for probably 4 years, if I had to guess, 3 to 4 or something like that. And as is usual, probably anywhere you go, there's very few hands to do the work that's needed.
Volunteer.
Volunteer where you can, and maybe we can express as an organization that there's certain areas that's needed. But as John was describing, there's this complaint which has been accepted that needs to go forward, right? And so there needs to be some kind of
the county as it stands right now and the state as it stands right now are in non-compliance because they did the initial things. We never got the planning for Puna. Well, I mean, when Harry was elected the last time, which was when the complaint was delivered to the county in 2000, and that was the beginning of his first term in office. He moved to get us planning money, and we have a successful community development plan for Puna.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop this because this is gonna kill the whole thing. But